everybody. Thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. Tonight, we are joined by retired U.S. Army captain and world champion disabled strongman Derick Carver. Derick, welcome to the show. Your story's incredible, amazing, unbelievable, inspiring. It's so many different things. For people who maybe aren't familiar with you, tell us a little bit about all of it, where you were born, raised, how you ended up in the military, and then ultimately kind of what happened to you.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. Growing up, I tell people I had like the typical 90s like experience. You know, I was born to a young single mother before there was like TV shows on MTV about 16 and pregnant. Like I never met my biological father, so my mom really stepped up. We moved a lot. I was born in Tennessee, raised in California. I went to college in the Midwest, and I've lived on the East Coast until recently. So I feel like I've got that whole American lifestyle thing down. As far as the military, it's weird because I get asked a lot, and it's actually, I think, not having a father played into it, and then coming from like a 5-generation military family. My grandfather spent 2+ decades in the Marine Corps and did a bunch of tours to Vietnam. I think that's kind of what I gravitated towards, kind of as that role model, I guess. And like when I was in kindergarten, you know, that like really that brown piece of paper that has like the lines with the dots in the middle, and you like, it says, what do you want to be when you grow up? I actually wrote like Army soldier and then drew a picture of a guy with a gun. So it was always just kind of like in the cards. I grew up heavily involved in sports. I think it was something my mom kind of pushed me towards, not to kind of, one, it's cheaper than daycare, and then two, it kind of like keeps you busy and healthy and active and gives you things to do. And, you know, played football into college, played, you know, high level, like varsity baseball in high school as a freshman, and was always just use that as my excuse to stay out of trouble and avoid the BS growing up in Southern LA in the 90s, Southern California in the 90s.
And by the way, kudos to your mom. You're proof positive it works. I'm doing it with my kids. They don't get any downtime. They're little, they're 3 and 5. I got them doing everything, Derick. We're going strong. They get home from school, they change clothes, we go to the first activity, we go to the next activity, we keep going. And so I love it. I think I wish more parents had their kids just active, doing physical activity. My dad used to come home, and if my brother and I were in the house, he'd be like, get out of the house. I don't care what you do, just get outside. That's what I'm trying to do with my kids. So I love it.
She would literally just say, go outside and play. And she didn't care if I just went outside and sat outside. It's like fresh air.
One of my kids breaks chalk with rocks. He's breaking like rocks in our driveway. And my husband's like, what's with all the broken rocks? I'm like, I'm trying to keep him out of the house. Yes, I hear it.
She was big on reading. Like, we would do books during the summertime. I remember reading like Mark Twain in like 5th grade during the summer, and had to write a weekly book review. Oh yeah, she was super intense about it. I think I learned my intensity from my mother because of just how she was just constantly imposing standards and expectations in a non-overbearing way. You know, it was good.
That's the key. Well, and then obviously you ended up in the military, and you were overseas. You were in Afghanistan, and in 2010 there was an incident that happened. Tell us about that day. Was it sort of a regular patrol? Were you and your team on some type of mission? Tell us about how everything played out.
Yeah, so I was assigned to the 82nd, and we were in Afghanistan in the Arghandab, just outside Kandahar, and we were right on the river. It was a hot spot, and this is 2009, 2010. And we'd been there for a few months, and actually on that particular day, we were going to open a school for the Afghan children in the village that we were responsible for. There was a few thousand kids, and the Taliban had made it a point to close that school because the village elder had actually let girls attend that school. So ironically, you know, we go to open the school and help the nation kind of further itself and educate the youth, and it was heavily IED'd. And then on the way into the school, to clear it from the IEDs, we were actually ambushed in the complex ambush. It was initiated with a daisy-chained IED command wire. From the reports that I read, this is 13 years ago, and I got bits and pieces after waking up in Walter Reed. But it was 107s and HME. There was 7 of them, and they were all stacked, and it went off right in the middle of my element. And my soldiers did exactly what they were supposed to do, responded to the situation, like, saved my life, saved other guys' lives, and maneuvered on the enemy positions and ended up kind of winning that moment despite the minor setback.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
What are 107s? Because I'm not. My husband will probably be very upset with me because
Yeah.
he's big into shooting and all this. Tell me about what is that?
It's a 107's like a Chinese rocket.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a 107 millimeter, and it was
Wow.
yeah, it was actually double stacked, and where I was, but only one of the two went off, luckily, or I probably wouldn't have a torso right
Oh
now.
my gosh.
So yeah, it's I was a abnormally large lieutenant for the 82nd, weighing like 240, 250. So I think that helped. The way it hit is it went through my left leg into my right leg, and then I remember somersaulting, opening my eye. I didn't lose consciousness. I didn't really pass out. I was kind of aware of the whole thing, and like landing, my leg was off and over there. I remember like reaching for my rifle and my soldiers, and it was part of me's glad that I got to keep that experience and remember it, and then
I can't imagine. I mean, first of all, I just want to say thank you for your service. Thank you. Look, we say it all the time. I think, at least I try to thank everyone I know who serves this country. We wouldn't be here without people who were willing to go out and do the things like you did and go try to help open a school, over thousands of miles away from home, doing incredible things. And I think often it's easy to remove yourself from the horrors and the atrocities of war and what, you go through in a situation like that. So thank you for your service. And I mean, I can't imagine then coming back from that. So you were kind of conscious for the whole thing. But then I assume at some point you either passed out or they put you out or something, and then you woke up in Walter Reed. Is that right?
So it was weird. I actually was medevac. Remember the helicopter coming in, going out, and when I rolled into the field hospital, roll 3, I remember the doctor, like I was trying to brief my S3 on what had happened and gave him the exfil and like give him the information, and like he's telling me to shut up and relax and focus on the situation. And I remember I was watching him cut my uniform off, and I'm missing my left leg, most of my right leg. I have amputations on my hands, fused fingers, and soft tissue injuries. And I remember they cut my uniform off, and they moved me from the stretcher to the steel table. And I looked at the doctor. I was like, "Hey, sir, is this where you put me to sleep?" He was like, "Yes." And I was like, "Hey, do me a favor." He goes, "What's up?" I go, "Make sure I wake up." And I remember just as he started to put me to sleep, he said, "I'll try." I went to sleep angry because I was like, "You'll try, lie to me, man. Just
oh my god,
tell me everything's gonna be fine."
Wow.
So I actually woke up in transit back to the U.S. Remember when the volcano erupted in Iceland back in 2010?
Yes.
I was the last flight out as that was happening before they shut them down. So, and I remember that because it was something they were talking about in the news. And then I remember waking up on the airplane, and I knew it was a C-130 because of the way the wing setup is. And I was on a triple rack, and it was loaded, and I grabbed the nurse and scared her. And then I remember being on the big bus and ambulance that goes from Dover to Walter Reed at like 2 a.m. They're these specialized ambulances that they used to like quadruple stack us like 20, 30 feet. I remember waking up on that. I remember getting wheeled into Walter Reed, but I was kind of in an induced coma where I was in and out of consciousness and didn't really have anything going on. And that lasted for 3 or 4 months. I think I had in total over 60 surgeries, 52 blood transfusions, 5 plasma transfusions. And it took me quite a few years to learn how to walk again with the damage. In total, the time I spent under Walter Reed's care, in and out of the hospital, was almost 10 years with ongoing continuous surgery. Yeah, I left early. I was actually returned to duty and went down as an operations officer at 4th Rangers Training Battalion out of Fort Benning for 2 years, and then did remote care, and then got out, and then had to continue having surgeries because of complications.
Man, I mean, that's the things that you've had to overcome are pretty incredible. I mean, just alone the 60 surgeries and 52 blood transfusions, I think you just said, which is wild. Obviously that in and of itself is insane for anyone to have to go through. But I imagine having been at, Walter Reed for as long as you were, did you become friendly with the doctors, the nurses, the surgeons? Like, did you know everyone? I mean, how is that?
So Dr. Potter was actually a captain when I went in there as a lieutenant, and now he's a full bird colonel, and I'm 13 years retired, and I've had the same doctor in the same system, and that's testament to him as an individual. He's probably one of the best orthopedic surgeons. I think he's done the most traumatic amputations and operations, and if probably the world, and definitely the United States. He runs the Army Medical Hospital, last I heard. Now, you build a lot of relationships. It's not the medical staff that's the issue a lot of times with the care that you're getting. It's really the system.
Mm-hmm.
And it's trying to figure out how to make the care that you need work within the system and the requirements that are set out. Everybody thinks that universal health care and the military system is great. It is because of the people there, but it's a lot of BS and a lot of processes with a lot of paperwork and steps to get what you need. And luckily for a lot of the time, George W. signed an EO allowing an executive order allowing the combat wounded veterans to go back to the main hospitals and get care, and that helped cut through a lot of the BS. But it was still a lot of hoops to jump through, especially early on, trying to figure out like the mental aspect, because TBI wasn't clearly established back then. PTSD for this new generation was different, and we're trying to define it alone has been a hurdle for the government.
Yeah. Well, I mean, physically, obviously, you had a lot to overcome. Mentally, I assume you had a lot to overcome. And then, Derek, you didn't, that would have been enough for a lot of people. They would have said, you know what? I almost died overseas, literally risked my life here, lost parts of my body. Things will never be the same. I'm done with my military service. You weren't done yet, though, were you?
No, I went back and served an additional 2 years, and and then got out and kind of found fitness as a way of positive recovery and getting back to where I thought I wanted to be. And half of it was ego, and half of it was proving to myself that I was still capable. And then kind of just stumbled along and ended up competing for the United States, and that's when I qualified, won the U.S. title, and then that qualified me for Worlds, and scrambled to get a lot of sponsors together to go over into the UK and compete there, and dominated that and had a lot of fun doing it, and it set me on a path to where I could find my way into nonprofits, which were the cornerstone of my recovery. Gary Sinise Foundation, America's Fund, Yellow Ribbon Fund. There was a lot of organizations that were always there to help and assist. And that was a reflection of the population of people actually caring about the soldiers that came back in the situation that I came back in, that helped kind of saved my life in a way, because a lot of the things that we had to deal with, and I say we because it's a community of guys. There's 1,856 combat amputees, I believe. And, everyone has a different experience, but we all have a lot of the same problems. And a lot of those caregivers, have been there for a lot of us since day one, and we're still like lifelong friends at this point. So without them, a lot more guys would be, committing suicide or succumbing to their problems.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you like you said, you had a lot of great support, and I think there are a lot of people who are finally realizing that, when our veterans come back home, whether they are physically injured or not, they need some sort of support, because there are things that I'm sure you see when you are at war, whenever you are there in the heat of a battle, that most of us, thank God, will never have to really understand and can fully appreciate. But I read that the Yellow Ribbon offered a fully furnished apartment while you were going through your rehab. And then you just mentioned the Gary Sinise Foundation as well. They gave you a smart home. And I saw a video of the Gary Sinise Foundation whenever you got this home. And I think it's pretty cool that you explain in this video, and maybe you can share with our audience, why it is so important that you have a home that is made for you. Because, again, most of us never really will understand the issues that you might have with a typical house.
Yeah, so I mean, with the Yellow Ribbon apartment, that was during the osseointegration, where they implant the they put an implant inside my femur, and I have an external port that hooks directly to my prosthetic. Because of my amputation being so high, I couldn't really walk in a passive suction system, which is the typical way that amputees would operate prior to this surgery. It's experimental, and I volunteered for it as like the 23rd person.
Wow.
So and it wouldn't have been possible without that apartment. And then with the Gary Sinise home, this is amazing. I don't even know where to begin with Gary Sinise Foundation. What they do for veterans in the military community is amazing. A lot of the things that, like, common sense is just wider doorways for wheelchairs. I mean, the standard home door frame is like 36 inches, and these are all 44 inches because when you're going through, you can't actually wheel through a standard doorway and not bang your hands or knuckles. Everything's kind of set up to where, like, bathrooms have a 5-foot radius so you can get in and out with the chair. Everybody thinks that because you're on a prosthetic, you spend your entire day on a prosthetic. And the truth is you spend a lot of time in your chair, and actually the prosthetic's additional wear and tear on, your nub or your leg, that causes swelling. There's venous things. So it helps actually kind of, you conserve what you can and can't do with your sound leg or what your nub is capable of. And it allows me to kind of conserve energy for my family, for my friends. The house is completely flat. So the going to friends' houses, the 1 or 2 steps into your garage, or the step into the house, or even the little door frame, frame things right there where your wheelchair gets stuck on it or your prosthetic catches it. I mean, ask any amputee, what's one of the biggest fears you have walking around like falling?
Wow. Well, yeah.
and it's really truly amazing because it's smart. So I can run everything from my phone. There's everything comes up with a remote or an iPad. It's it's everything that you could actually ask for rolled into one, and it's something that I reflect on. That I got from the organization and the people, that kind of it reminds me that as crazy as the world is and as loony as everything's getting out there, that's not our country. That's a small population of our country, and the things that the guys like myself and the guys that I was with and went and fought for, that's not lost. It's just being put on the back burner right now. And I have faith that the people will fix what needs to be fixed. And Americans do a really good job of waiting to the last minute to do. They'll try everything else before they do what they have to do. And we're very patient people. We did it in World War I. We did it in World War II.
We're ready. We're ready, Derek. We're at the last minute. We're ready to go.
Hey, and I tell guys all the time, like, especially my friends group, like, work hard, become influential, become important, become wealthy, maintain your integrity, because those are the people that are going to kind of set the conditions for the future of our country.
Amen.
And I think that's what we're missing right now.
You know what I love too is I love too that Gary Sinise started the Gary Sinise Foundation, and of course Lieutenant Dan, right, from Forrest Gump. Okay, and I just think, like, he could have done nothing at all, and he still would have been this actor who people, for years and decades would remember, and he's done some great films and such. He didn't have to do any of this. Why do you think that he has gone so far out of his way? Because I hear a lot about the Gary Sinise Foundation, and I think it's really awesome that someone in his position would take his time, his energy, and his, prestige in a way, and raise money to help veterans. I think it's awesome, and I love that he's doing it.
So it's actually a question that I asked him. Like, Gary does a really good job of getting to know all the veterans. He's actually the guy that called me and said, "Hey, we're going to build you your house."
Wow, that's so cool.
I was living in Detroit at the time and sitting with a friend on the patio, and I put it on speakerphone. He's like, "Hey, Derek, when we talked for about 5 minutes, he's like, I'm going to build you a home." And I remember the way it made me feel. I think, and I don't want to speak for Gary, but I think what he would say, and kind of like what we've had conversations about, is I think before that role, everybody kind of knew that veterans struggled when they came back from war, and that it was life-changing. And then once he got into that role, being the person that he is and the actor that he is and what he brought with it, he went out and learned about the people that had those experiences, and it kind of exposed them firsthand. and gave them intimate knowledge of what it was like going to Vietnam, what it was like losing all of your friends, what it was like going and losing a leg, and then what it was like coming home, and then like that process from going to the war and coming home, especially with Vietnam, where they didn't have a warm welcoming. And
Right.
sidebar, the Vietnam veterans have been phenomenal. They've gone out of their way to ensure that the GWAT veterans didn't have the same experience they did when they got home,
Yeah.
because of just how they were treated. And I think Gary learned from that, and he internalized it as an actor, and then he acted it out, and then he saw the impact, and then, the negative stereotypes associated with veterans, and then, how we respond to things without the proper understanding. People are like, oh, they just all have PTSD, and they drink, and they have all these negative stereotypes associated with it, and everybody just sees that, but they don't understand what got us there and what it takes to get out of that hole. I think that experience really moved Gary in a meaningful way, where he wanted to find a way to help us find our space in the world and make life easier. I mean, it's a mortgage, Laura. Like I can't even begin to explain that how much easier my life is because I've had the opportunity to receive this home. I mean, not having to stress about a house payment, not having living in a beautiful neighborhood with great neighbors. It's really like the way the Gary Sinise Foundation does it is it's the reason why they're one of the best nonprofits in America for veterans. And it's not just disabled veterans; it's the Gold Star families when they take them to Disney World or when they do their events, and it's they're doing all of the right things for the right people, and it's amazing.
We need more of that. I love it. I think it's awesome. I got to ask you, though, before we let you go, I got to get back to the world champion disabled strongman stuff. I'm sorry. First of all, what is involved? Is this like a typical strongman competition that I've seen before on like ESPN or something? Like, what are the events? How does it work?
Yeah, we do all the same things that the normal strongmen do. We just do it adapted. So we did a deadlift. I think my deadlift at the event was just we did a seated variation where I think my deadlift was just over 900 pounds. We do the stone moves. But yeah, I mean, hey, look, I was a lot bigger guy, and it was the focus of my life. We do stones up to 350 pounds.
Wow.
Instead of lifting them off the ground and putting them on top, we usually have to lift them from one side, bring them across, and put them on another, and then go to the next one. We did a log press for reps. I think the log was like a 275 log, and had to rep it out. I went into the U.S. competition without ever having trained. A friend of mine was like, hey, man, this is something you're into. Just go try it. And I went in there and I did the seated and the standing division. And I ended up getting fourth in the standing and winning the seated. So going to the Worlds, I was like, man, I got 4 months to train and actually try now. So and going to London or Manchester in the UK and having that experience and seeing that there was 20 plus other athletes from around the world, like the Australian guys were there. There was some Middle Eastern, and the Brits were there in force. Having that experience and seeing it from around the world, I was absolutely I was super excited about going to foreign countries and beating their disabled people at things they love to do, representing America.
I love it.
It was great. Yeah,
so
and
cool.
It kind of helps you kind of get over things and accept your body for the way it is, and that's what fitness I think does. And with the obesity epidemic and a lot of the problems we have in the U.S., I think if people just got out and started doing meaningful things for themselves in an unselfish way, again, we could solve a lot of problems.
We sure could. I mean, because everybody turns to medication and just get out, just go do something, move around, move your body. I think, you release serotonin and dopamine and the whole thing with exercise. I mean, it is my drug of choice. I'll say that. I am fully addicted to exercise of some variety. And I think you're right. I just think the strongman stuff is so cool. I love watching these competitions. And so, how awesome that you got to go do that stuff. I think what a badass on every level, by the way, just really, really cool. And I know that you're studying politics. So I have to ask you, would you ever run for political office? Why or why not?
No, it's actually what I've decided to do.
Really?
It's weird. I've had meetings with people about it, and I'm trying to figure out where I fit in. Obviously, I'm a fairly conservative individual. It's definitely in the cards. It's definitely something I want to do. I've actually been I have my foreign language this summer for my program, and then looking for an internship. I'm in Texas, so I'm in Chip's district, and Ted Cruz is a big deal out here.
What language are you doing? What are we studying?
I'm doing Spanish. It's Spanish.
I mean, yeah, I should have guessed.
It's either Spanish or Chinese, depending on which path I decide to take.
Well, we may need to be speaking Chinese all too soon if we don't get you on the ticket at some point, Derek. I think that's awesome. Listen, no one knows more so than folks in my family how big a task it is truly to run for political office. Anyone who willingly puts themselves out there and really is doing it for the right reasons, I give you just complete and total respect, because it is tough. It is nasty. It is crazy. But the great thing about it is you really can enact change for people that can positively affect their lives. And I know you know that. And I'm sure that's part of the reason that you really want to get into this field. Keep us updated. Obviously, we'll be paying close attention. You've tackled the strongman stuff, so on to politics. Very cool. And also, what an inspiring story for all of us, that, you know what, it really doesn't matter how bad things can get, because things were pretty bad for you. Things were tough. You had a super long road to get to where you are today. You can never give up, I guess. Is that what you tell people? Do people ever ask you, did you want to give up at some point?
You do things because if not you, then who? And then you finish things because that's what life's about. It's about setting goals, overcoming them, and then setting new goals. And very often it's about setting goals that, it's weird because I'll tell people what I want to do, and when they laugh, I know I'm on the right path, because they can't see it. They can't imagine that being a choice. So that tells me I'm probably going the right direction, and my goals are probably at the right benchmark they need to be at.
Well, because we need people. We need people who care about this country. We need people who have fought for this country before, because you get how important this country is, Derek. You understand what's at stake. You've seen other parts of the world where they are not as fortunate as we are here in the United States of America. And so we do need people like you. And I think it's great. So let us know. Keep us updated as to what's going on. Derick Carver, thank you again for your service. Good luck with everything, and let's get you on a ticket sometime soon, and you can come back and tell us all about it.
If your father-in-law needs an advisor, you guys let me know. I'll come work for
a VP pick, maybe. I don't know, Derek. Let's see.
Well, no,
I love it.
I appreciate the opportunity. If you guys are interested in adaptive sports, there's tons of athletes on social media, especially Instagram. So look them up, and
how can people follow you?
I'm at Derick.Carver on Instagram. If you're easily offended or triggered, don't follow my page.
I mean, if they're watching this, they're probably not at this point. Right. But you're awesome, Derek. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us here on The Right View. To everybody at home, as always, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, and share. We'll see you back here next time for more of The Right View. So I'm like a lot of people. I love to wear an Apple Watch, but I hate how it looks. And I scoured the internet to search for the best looking Apple Watch cases I could find, and I found it. goldandcherry.com. They have absolutely beautiful watches, as you can see here. Everything is waterproof. Everything looks good with different outfits. You can get sporty, you can get fancy, but they are great quality, made out of Delaware in the United States of America. And they have been kind enough to give me a promo code that I can share with you if you want to get your hands on one of these as well. It's Lara T, L-A-R-A-T is the promo code to get yourself a discount at goldandcherry.com. And not only do they make Apple Watch cases, they also make great products for iPads and iPhones, keyboards, your desktop, everything you could possibly need. Goldandcherry.com. Use promo code LARAT so you can get yourself one of these today too. At The Right View, we're very proud of the fact that we are independent. We get to say everything that we think and everything that we feel. We have no woke companies guiding us or telling us what we can and cannot say. We are always going to shoot you straight and give you the facts as we know them. And that's why it's important to support independent outlets like The Right View. My name is Lara Trump, and I think Mike Lindell is a patriot. He is someone who loves this country, is willing to fight for this country. I love MyPillow because not only are MyPillows made in the USA by American workers, but they're great products, and they're so great that not only do I use them in my own bed at night, my children actually requested. My daughter the other day went to the closet and pulled out a MyPillow and said, "This is the pillow that I want to sleep with." And I gotta tell you, she loves it and will have nothing to do with any other pillow. So it's a big hit around our house. My dogs also happen to sleep on MyPillow dog beds. So all around the Trump household, we're big fans. If you go to mypillow.com today and use promo code Trump, again, promo code Trump, you will not only save money, but you will help us continue this show and other shows like it and help us continue the fight for the future of America. Inflation has impacted all of our lives. I don't think anyone can go to the gas pump or the grocery store without noticing that it is a major factor. And unfortunately, it's not going anywhere. It doesn't seem like it's going down in the way that we would like it to. And one way to protect your money is by investing in precious metals, gold and silver. That's always been a great way to make sure that you keep your money and you keep it safe. When you go to bh-pm.com, use promo code Trump. That way, if you decide you want to invest in gold and silver, you'll save yourself a little bit of money. We live in a time that's very interesting. A lot of us out there feel like a lot of our rights are slipping away. And if you're like I am and you want to have the right to choose whether or not to have a vaccine, how to live your life freely, and you're looking for a great doctor, I've heard amazing things about Dr. Sherwood. He's somebody who you should really check out and check into, and it'll help support this program and keep us going. So go to sherwood.tv and use promo code Trump. Again, sherwood.tv and use promo code Trump. You can save yourself some money and help us keep our program going.